Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it, and government is always trying to fix its last solution. And I'd say that those two sentences for me epitomize the failures of the regulatory overreach that we see quite often with the management of the national forests. In 2001, the USDA, U.S. Forest Service, promulgated the Roadless Rule, which prohibited timber harvesting and road construction on 58.5 million acres of National Forest Service lands, or approximately 1/3 of the entirety of our national forests in the United States, including 3.2 million acres in the state of Wyoming. Despite the GAO report stating that such an action would limit the Forest Service from safely thinning dense forests or improving resistance to insects and diseases that otherwise kill trees, thereby adding to fuel loads, the agency moved forward with the rule. I have the GAO report. It was issued in November 2000, and there were several very important, very important information included in there, including the fact that the Forest Service recognized at the time that should the rule be adopted, it would prohibit the construction of roads, even if such a road would help the agency to restore and maintain desired ecological conditions. The road also would not authorize road construction or reconstruction in inventoried roadless areas to restore and maintain ecological sustainability. And national forests could generally not construct a road to thin stands of trees and mechanically remove underbrush and dead vegetation to reduce the risk of uncontrollable and potentially catastrophic fire, or to improve the forest's resistance to insects and disease that otherwise could kill trees and add to fuel loads. There were numerous national forests throughout the country that were extremely concerned and opposed the Roadless Rule because they recognized what it would do. And in fact, we now know what it's done, which it is responsible for the catastrophic forest fires we've seen, and it's also responsible for the pine beetle outbreak that we have suffered in the interior West. According to this report, officials on several national forests included in our review voiced concerns about the long-term impacts of the Roadless Rule. For example, officials on the Route National Forest anticipate an outbreak of beetles resulting from a catastrophic windstorm in 1997 that felled 13,000 acres of trees in or adjacent to roadless areas on the forest. They believe that the preferred alternative, the Roadless Rule, would not allow them to construct the roads necessary to remove trees in roadless areas that in the future may become infected by beetles currently living within this deadfall. And in fact, Chief Moore, that's exactly what has happened, hasn't it?
So I think you very eloquently described some of the challenges that we have with the Roadless Rule.
Yeah, the Roadless Rule failed us in terms of being able to manage our national forests. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
Well, it certainly presented some challenges to us, which we're realizing now.
So what do you, but you knew back in 2000, not you, but the Forest Service was warned way back in 2000, and there were many people, including Forest Service personnel from all over the United States, who actually begged the National Forest Service, I have the letters, to please not adopt the Roadless Rule because it was going to result in exactly what has happened, which is catastrophic forest fire and pine beetle outbreak and devastation throughout the interior West, correct?
I'm not sure what you have reading, but I stand by the statement I made just now.
Okay. What is your plan to increase access to roadless areas so that you can monitor and detect and treat bark beetle infestations in the future?
Well, you know, I think that's part of any time these bills have been passed, Congresswoman, is that we need to sit down.
That wasn't a bill, that was a regulation.
Well, anytime even the regulations are there, we need to sit down and really look at the implications of that regulation.
So in fact, you haven't been doing that as in your position as forest chief up to this point, recognizing it, to use your terminology, that the Roadless Rule created very serious challenges for the National Forest Service?
Well, I'm recognizing that we do have challenges with the Roadless Rule. And no, I have not, because I've only been in the job for a little while, and that has not been my focus.
Okay. Even though it affects 1/3 of our national forests.
We have gone on record saying that our forests need to be managed, the vegetation needs to be removed because it contributes to disease and insect outbreak as well as wildfires.
On a related note, yes or no, is it a priority for you to ensure that Western states that are vulnerable to extreme wildfires have streamlined tools to increase the pace of wildfire risk protection?
Yes, all forests.
And is Wyoming a Western state?
Yes.
The Wyoming delegation sent you a letter on March 15th, 2023, asking as to why we were excluded from the Management Commission and the 10-year strategy that you have put together. Will you add Wyoming to the Wildland Fire Mitigation Management Commission and 10-year strategy?
So we're always looking for ways to improve what we're doing, Congresswoman. But let me, if I could, just address Wyoming. Even though Wyoming does not have one of the 21 priority landscapes yet, we are putting $10 million in this year's budget toward Wyoming, trying to protect some of those areas.
$10 million for 9.2 million acres of
The
land?
gentlewoman's time has expired. The gentleman may answer the question.
Yeah, but keep in mind, we are doing other treatments in Wyoming as well. I mentioned one of the pilot projects we have where we're taking timber out of California and moving it into Hewlett, Wyoming, to help really stabilize the wood industry. And so that's having a positive impact not only in Wyoming, but also South Dakota as well on the Black Hills. So we are recognizing the need to do a lot more than what we're currently doing all across
That
the
isn't
West.
treating our national forest. I
Gentlewoman's
would
time has
request
expired.
that you respond to our letter in writing, please.
Yes.